Vanakkam. Welcome back to our course SAP Materials Management. As we know, things keep changing in all directions. Once MRP run is completed, it is important to analyze the results to take proactive steps to manage the changes in demand, supply, and manufacturing. In this session, we will discuss how to evaluate MRP results using a stock requirement list, range of coverage measurements, exception messages, and evaluating the outputs of MRP like planned orders and purchasing requisitions. Before going into the session, let us see the answers for the quizzes of previous session. What are the organization elements to run MRP live? We discussed the 5 elements now: plant, material, product group, MRP controller, and also the material scope. Next question was, is MRP list generated in traditional MRP, that is classical MRP? Yes. MRP list is generated in classical MRP or traditional MRP. This is a static report. Until next MRP run, this will not change. In MRP live, MRP list is not generated. Is it possible to run MRP live in the background? Yes, we can program and run the MRP live in background. In the last 2 sessions, we discussed MRP Logic and also MRP run. In addition to this, in this session, we are going to discuss how to evaluate MRP. We discussed in detail about MRP Logic in the last session. In addition to planned orders and purchase requisitions, exception messages are very important outputs from MRP run. The planners and buyers should have very good knowledge on how to handle the exception messages. The first tool to analyze the MRP output is stock requirements list. Stock requirement list is the evaluation tool not only for planners but also for buyers. And it is not only a materials evaluation tool, but it is also an intuitive dashboard that materials a planner and buyer can create, change, and delete the planning elements. From accessing the planning, production, sales, and procurement details of either individual material or collection of materials, stock requirement list also give details about various parameters like MRP type, lot size, replenishment lead time, which are used in the materials planning. The logical and structural grouping of exception messages enables a materials planner to immediately see the materials which need urgent actions, such as expediting procurement or production to meet the customer orders, or delaying the procurement or cancelling the requirements which are no longer required, or we have to postpone them. Evaluation tools like a stock overview or day supply, they provide the planners with complete visibility of demand and supply situation of materials. There are many other options available in the stock requirement list which will be much handy and helpful to planners and buyers, like display of exception messages, jumping into the detailed view, jump into the order reorder point, order reports, display goods ship date or availability date, showing the replenishment lead time, and changing the MRP elements. Stock requirement list is accessed through T code MD04. We can see the status of individual materials or collection of several materials using this transaction. To start with, let us see the status of one material. Enter the material and plant and proceed. Stock requirement details can be displayed for individual plant or cross plant. Here we can see 2 tabs. For example, stock details on a single plant in MD04. We can compare this with the stock overview report, which is MMBE. Also, there is a cross plant details which are there in the MD04 when you click on it. That also we can compare with the stock overview. This means we can see the details for individual material in the individual plant or also the cross plant. The stock requirement list also provide period wise total. In this, using the sum, the icon sum, no, that button if we click, we can see the details individually. The periods are given either in days, weeks or months or planning calendar wise. So there are different options. You can accumulate the details and see. In the cross plant view, there is an option to switch on or switch off the aggregation of the details. If we want to see the details one by one, then we can switch off the aggregation. If you do not want to see them individually, but we want to see the total, then we can switch on the aggregation. By clicking the order report button, we can see the details of a selected order in detail with the level by level BOM with all planning elements like planned orders or purchase requisitions or production orders or purchase orders like this. Here we see another order. After seeing all the details, we can hide the order report using the hide over tree. Now let us discuss the functions of each icon in the stock requirement list. After selecting a planning element, we can display the details about that element using the display icon. Then the selected planning elements can be changed through the change icon. Pegged requirements of specific planning elements can be tracked using this icon. Pegged requirement means where there is a planning element where this particular planning element is going to be used. That is called pegged requirement. The order report shows the details of the selected planned elements where it is down the level. There are 2 dates for each planning element, especially receipt items. One is the goods receipt date and the other is the available date. The difference between these two is the goods receipt processing time. Using the icon shown here, we can either click GR or AV. We can display either goods receipt date or availability date in the stock requirement list. Then total replenishment lead time is the cumulative lead time of the material. This was explained in one of our previous session. All receipts and issues details within replenishment lead time. See, there is a report. In this report, we want to see the details which are before the replenishment lead time, which means we want to understand any criticality before the replenishment lead time. We can switch on or switch off the replenishment lead time option so that we can see the details before replenishment lead time. If there is exception for any element, it will appear in this column. We will discuss about exceptions later. For purchase requisitions, purchase orders or sales orders, relevant vendors or customers, if you want to get displayed here, we can use these icons. By pressing the icon vendor or customer, then the details of vendor and customer for purchase requisition, sales order, once they are assigned, they will be appearing here. Also, we can see the MRP parameters of a material by expanding the view using the icon shown here. Under the Metal Master tab, we see the key parameters like MRP controller, reorder point, purchasing group, safety stock, procurement type, planned delivery lead time, GR processing time, lot sizing procedure, and many other parameters. Under forecasting and planning tab, parameters related to planning and forecasting like a special procurement type, quota arrangements, planning planned specific metal status, etc. are displayed. Under the total consumption tab, the consumption details of the 2 periods are compared. This will be very useful to compare the period-wise consumption to understand the change in pattern. This will help planners and buyers to take proactive steps to plan the material. The lot size data tab will provide all details about the lot size. So any optimization lot sizes can be done by the respective MRP controller or buyer. So far we discussed the stock requirement list for the individual materials. It is possible to have a collective display of various materials. At the organization level, we can group the materials based on MRP area or plant. Further, we can select one of the following options like MRP controller, product group, vendor, etc. In addition, there are further filter options to display the proper collection of materials. For example, under Metal Master, we can select parameters like the procurement type, special procurement key, ABC indicator, plant specific metal status, MRP type, and metal type. Based on MRP type, whether all materials are MRP MPS materials, that is another option. Finally, based on range of coverage, we'll explain what is range of coverage later, but this option will be very useful to understand the criticality of the availability of the materials. After selecting required parameters by pressing enter, system will display the list of materials as per the selection parameters. For each material, there are many details on this page. For example, plant stock, the basic unit of measurement, reorder point, material type, procurement type, special procurement type, MRP controller, MRP type, etc. These are the basic details of the materials. Apart from these, there are key analytical parameters on this page. First, let us see the details of stock coverage from different aspects. We'll discuss what is the stock coverage now. First is the days supply. Days supply indicates how long the current stock and expected receipts can cover the requirements. That is called the days supply, and also there is a receipt days supply. Days supply, how is it calculated? That is explained in this example. With there is a stock of 240. The first day requirement is 90, remaining will be 150. Second day requirement is 70, remaining is 80. Third day requirement is 100. Then this under coverage. So which means that how much? We have only 80. So we have 2.8 as the day supply. This is how day supply will be calculated. Apart from this, there are two different types of receipt day supply. Stock plus including the receipt. Receipt days one supply means all possible receipts will be considered. Receipt day supply means definite receipt elements will be considered. These are the two possible day supplies. So what are the elements to be considered in these things? These things can be configured in this to arrive at which have to be in the receipt day supply one, which have to be in the receipt supply two, like a planned order, production order, stock transport order, or shipping notification. So whether it has to be in both, whether it has to be in only one, like this. Normally, the receipt day supply one, we will take all possible receipts. In receipt 2 will take only the firm requirements to appear in this report. Okay, and then there is a safety stock. The safety stock field controls whether the day's supply considers safety stock while calculating number of days until payroll stock falls below the safety stock. If you enter indicator 1, the system uses the number of days until the stock falls below 0. So it is normally suggested to be kept as empty, so that system will consider the safety stock. And by defining these parameters in the right way, a planner or buyer can have close control over the availability of materials at the right level, and also it will help to take a lot of proactive actions, so like any advancement or postponement of the orders, because having too less inventory is also a problem, having too much inventory is also a problem. Next, we will discuss traffic lights, which is another tool to list the metal as per the importance defined. As the names suggest here, traffic light means you are having red light, yellow light, and green light. These are three kind of lights. Red light can be configured, or the parameters can be selected for red light, which means that the details which are required in the past, how far the past in the demand element is specified, or negative days of supply, those things can be considered in the red light. Green light means, again, that means it is having too much of inventory, right? We can set the system in such a way that it is too much of inventory. This means if it is in green also, we should be controlling these elements of these things. So we have to use this green for that purpose. Yellow means we are having right quantity of stock. The range of coverage is right. That is how we can configure this based on the stock days supply, first day's receipt, and also the second receipt. Apart from this, we can also define the traffic light based on the exception groups. So some of the exceptions are very critical, some of the exceptions are less critical, some of the exceptions, okay, they are there, it's a normal. So those things also we can define. Accordingly, we can define these things and bring them. So we'll discuss that what is the exception now. The exceptions are listed under the exception groups. See, you can see here 8 groups which are there, the columns. 8 columns are there, 8 groups. Under each group, how many exceptions are there, we can see. Individually, we can see them by selecting the particular line item and see the respective stock requirement list. Now, we'll see what is that exception group meaning. The exceptions messages are generated whenever MRP encounters any alerts during the planning run. The system displays the exception messages for each relevant procurement element in the stock requirement list. Because whenever we have running of MRP, there may be an increase in demand or decrease in demand, or there may be an order which is there, but the date is already old date, or the metal which you have placed the order for that there is no requirement now. Like this, many things will be there. Accordingly, we may need to push some orders to postpone, or we have to pull some orders, we have to prepone them, or some of the orders we may require to cancel them also. So there are many things we need to do. So here, these exception messages, we can see them in MD04, the individual material, or the collective materials MD07. Here, no, both the places we can see them. Also, the exception messages, we can also configure the text of these messages also accordingly. Now we'll see that what are all the list of exception messages available. Here we see the exception group number and description, and also the exception messages under each group, the first column and second column. So here we see here the new date, opening date, the first group, no, new opening date in the past, which means that opening date is in the past details. So here opening date in the past 5, and then 69 means recursive BOM components possible. Like this, exception messages are there. Please note that we can also change the exception messages statements to have to make it critical to the user when they are using it. For example, the past means it is an alert, so that we can say date is already passed, take action immediately. Like this, we can change the description also. Meanwhile, in the third column, priority is given. This priority is given based on my experience, right? So there are priorities 5, 4, 3, 8 like this given. Now, here I given the priority based on the urgency of the materials. For example, here priority 3 is given for third line item, which means finished date in the past, which means the finished date itself is in the past. That is most priority in this page. And then start date in the past, that is the next priority. And then open date is priority, that is the next priority, like this. So what are the other things we'll see now? So here we see other exception messages. See, if you see that exception group 8 termination, which means for a metal MRP itself is not running. That is the first priority. Second priority is BOM explosion is not there, which means BOM itself is not there. Second priority, right? Because these are the things we have to address it immediately through master data. It will take time. That is why I give the priority these things 1 and 2. So like this, the priority is given based on my experience. So this priority you can use them to define your traffic lights. Okay, so that you can list down the all your exceptions materials. When you're seeing the collective list of materials in that order, so that you can take the actions. So there are many evaluation reports available in SAP. So we have to practice all these reports. Already we discussed MD0 for MD07 and also MD4C and MD09. These were through MD04 itself we discussed. If you go and execute the transaction, you will see you will understand what I mean. After MRP run, planners should check the planned orders list. Planned orders may be displaying individually or collectively. Display menu path is given here, transaction MD13 or MD16. Here, when you're using MD16, the collective display, we have various options like MRP controller, material, production version, etc. So now if you put plant and MRP controller, select it and execute it, enter it. Here all the plant orders are listed. From here we can convert them into production order or a purchase requisition as needed. Also directly we can go to the conversion of the orders also. Instead of display and then conversion, we can use the transaction for conversion. So here we have MD14 for individual conversion to purchase requisition, MD15 for conversion to the purchase requisition collective. As we saw earlier, while converting planned orders to PR, we have various options like MRP controller, material, and then opening period, to then procurement type, then MRP concluder, MRP, what is that, WBS element, then whether the source is fixed or not, source is determined or not, those kind of things. Similarly, we can also convert the planned order to production orders collectively using transaction called CO41. Here also we have a lot of options: MRP area, MRP controller, production plant, supervisor, sales order, all these options are there. And obviously, one of the important lists to be checked is a list of purchase requisitions. Using transaction ME5A, we can see list of all purchase requisitions. Purchase requisitions can be displayed with various selection parameters. See, you have to explore these selection parameters the right way so that you will display only the required purchase requisitions to take the right actions in right time. Otherwise, will be display all 1000 PRs, then you will be selecting what are the things you have to do like this. There are many issues will be there. Instead of that, by using proper selection parameters, we can list out a proper list of purchase requisitions. Here we see the list of purchase requisition generated. From here we may assign the purchase requisition and convert the purchase request to the purchase orders. In this session we discussed about various tools to evaluate MRP output, starting with stock requirement list, collective stock requirement list, range of coverage and traffic lights, exception messages, list of output from MRP like planned orders and purchase requisitions. Now we will go to the quiz questions for this session. Where can you see the stock requirements and receipts of a material in same transaction? What transaction can be performed from stock requirements list? Can we see the metal master attributes from stock requirement list? What is order report? What is range of coverage? What are exception messages? So we will discuss the answers in the next session. The next session we will discuss how to manage purchase requisitions. Meanwhile, please go through the exception messages, understand the key exception messages. Also, please give your feedback to improve the flow and contents. Recommend to your friends and colleagues to subscribe to our channel so they also get the benefit of these knowledge sharing sessions. Thank you. See you in the next session. Take care. Bye.